Let's talk about string trimmers. Craftsman string trimmers, cordless ones, my personal one, and why I can't stand it. I have a lot of Craftsman tools. I have a lot of Craftsman lawn tools, lawn and garden tools, like my Craftsman T210 mower. I love that thing. I look through my storage shed where the mower sits. You'll see a Craftsman blower. Of course, the string trimmer we're talking about today, there's a Craftsman hedge trimmer in here. All the lawn care hand tools, V20 powered, Craftsman batteries. I like the stuff. I like the lineup, except for this string trimmer, which initially I thought would be perfect for me. It's V20, it's brushless, great. Now let me say, this is not a full review. This is just what I don't like about the item and why I regret buying it. Other info to keep in mind, this is the 920 series of the cordless V20 series Craftsman string trimmers. There's also a 930 that might be a little better. I think there are even models below this one. But what I'm talking about today is the 920 series. And these are the things I don't like because, frankly, it peaked at brushless. Up here at the power head, we'll start here because a lot of the problems are here. For instance, this is supposed to have a 13-inch cut swath, but it really doesn't because you can see how little line is out there. If I were to bump the head, the line would extend out and hit a cutter built into the deflector, but I actually reversed mine to get a little bit more room because, well, I just never saw the 13 inches of line coming out of this. And that, in my opinion, has to do with this goofy design. There's the typical bump head. You're going to have that on a string trimmer. That's how most of them work. But you can see this one isn't aging particularly well. That's because it gets used way too much because of the way this works. As soon as I let off the throttle, it pulls the line back in, meaning I have to bump it, and then it pulls line back out, and it cuts on that little cutter. Well, from the factory, this cutter wasn't in this position. It was actually flipped. I went against the instructions, which explicitly said do not do this. It'll put more strain on the motor and reduce the life of the trimmer, a life that I'm hoping is actually very short so I can replace it. The original position was about here, taking an extra inch or more off of what already is not a lot of line that's going to come out of this thing. Because the way this works, this is a traditional bump head. You bump it on the ground, it spits out line, that line gets cut. But the problem with this particular setup, look, when I pull this out, you can see what happens. It pulls back in. Every single time I let off the throttle, this happens, no matter how much line is out. That means I have to bump it again. That's going to cut off an extra inch or so on each side. Well, an extra couple of inches when a spool only holds about 12 feet of line means I'm replacing line in this thing every other time I use it. Super frustrating. And explains why just a few years in, there's already so much wear on the bottom of this bump head. And the reason things are starting to chip away there, because I'm having to bump it so often to feed line. Again, every time I let off the throttle. Here's an example. I actually slowed down the throttle at one point. It must have pulled some back in. So you can see the limited cut width that I'm dealing with here. A very small swath, about 8 inches or less. But I'm going to bump it here. It's going to go out. Well, let me forward no more than 4 feet of string trimming away. And you can see when I let off this throttle, watch, you can literally see the string retracting in as it slows. I mean, just look at this. Look how little, that's like a couple of inches of line out of either side. And this head's about 4 inches, so 2 inches on either side is about 8 inches, meaning I have to bump it to get back to not even the 13 that it's supposed to be originally, probably about 11. But as soon as I slow it down, or anything slows it down, even thicker grass, or if I just bump it on anything, it's going to start retracting that line. And that means my swath, I mean, look at this. You can already see the swath's not very big. That's not 11 inches. That's definitely not 13 inches. It's probably already back to the 8 or so that I'm used to. And honestly, I'm getting frustrated just watching this because I get worked up every single time I'm using this item. I mean, just look at that. It's just not a good string trimmer, or the string management, I'll say, is just not good. And that's just one of the things I don't like. A segue into another thing that absolutely drives me crazy about this has to do with one thing that I actually do like, and that's the V20 power. Craftsman batteries are great. This is a 4 amp hour. They range from 2 to 9 amp hours. They offer a lot of options. They have a meter on them. It tells you how much charge you have left in the battery. They always insert easy. They're small and light. V20 is a good platform and usually very user-friendly until you put it on this string trimmer. For you see, the engineers of this string trimmer didn't think this through very well. The battery inserts easily and it kind of forms in with the body, so that's great. But on the bottom of this is a hanger hook. I guess it's a good thing they have a hanger hook. That's part of their Versa stack or Versa track system. Props for that. But the problem is that that hook mount blocks the battery. You pull it out from the top, so this is the position you would be using it in. If you need to check the battery power, you have to get to a button that's hidden underneath the housing for that hook. Adult fingers will not fit in there. Meaning, if I want to check the battery power, I have to remove it from the device, and then I can check the power. That's bad design. Functionally a bad design because it looks good. I mean, the overall design of this, everything flows well, it looks good, and it looks like it would be comfortable, but that's another thing I don't like. Who did they design this to fit? The average American is 5'9", I'm 5'10". The handle grip, all that's great, and the layout of everything looks good, but they have these little adjusters. There are two of them, the first of which is down here closer to the power head. And I have this all the way out already. Again, I'm pretty close to the average American size. I'm 5'10". The average American, according to statistics, is 5'9". But if I extend this all the way out, as far as it goes, as you can see, it's not going to go any further there. And this other adjuster, that's only for this handle, which does itself have a lot of movement, a lot of adjustment potential. I like that. It'll accommodate long and short arms. But when you're looking at the overall average American with the average arm length, average height, this is one of those trimmers where, well, I'm just always bent over just a little bit. It's like if it just had another 2 inches of length. If you've ever used a string trimmer that's too short, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It rapidly wears on you. I mean, just a couple of minutes in, you start going, ooh, this is not fun. A slow, steady build combined with the frustration also building every single time I let off the trigger. There's also the speed that I can use with the trigger. There is a high setting, which really ramps up the RPMs but sucks battery super fast, and a low setting. Per their very own description for this item, you get to choose more power or more runtime, high or low. I use it almost exclusively in the low setting because high drains battery so fast that I can't get my entire yard done. I don't have a big yard, it's like 125 by 150. But I think in the low setting, this doesn't have enough power or enough centrifugal force to push the line constantly outward. And that's possibly what's causing it to slowly creep inwards even after I've bumped it and given it full line. It's always pulling back in to about that 8 inches. That's just part of the low setting, at least in my experience. More frustration because I need low to get my entire yard done. Again, it's not a big yard, but on low I can usually get my entire yard of trimming done and do about a quarter of my dad's before it'll give out, and I give out too because remember, I'm hunched over a little bit and I'm dealing with this small swath that it's cutting. But also, listen to this. Once you listen from that earlier RPM to this RPM, then in just a second here I'm going to cut to another RPM. I'm not on high here. This is another thing that happens with this trimmer. As the line gets low, the RPMs speed up, draining the battery even faster. And when it gets to almost the end of the spool, well, you can see, I just bumped it and the last bit of line shot out there. Yeah, it's really frustrating, to the point that this has become my most thrown lawn tool. I'm just overreacting, right? Well, it's super humid and hot outside. I could just go re-spool it and then continue. Wait a minute, I can't even get to the battery power button to find out how much power this battery has left in it. Remember, it was running on those higher RPMs because it was running out of line. In anger, I'm squeezing on this battery to find out, yeah, it's already down to 1 bar. This is pretty much done, and I didn't even get to finish trimming. Battery drained because of the higher RPMs, because I didn't add another full 12 feet of line to this spool before I trimmed my very small yard. Super frustrating, and all this combined is why I do not like this trimmer. I will give it 1+ though. Durability. I've beat the living daylights out of this thing thinking at some point it's gonna just quit working and I can move on, but no, it keeps working. So what do you think? Do you have one of these? Do you feel the same way about this? And based on what you've seen, would you tolerate it or would you move on to something else? Comment below. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.